What's going on, guys? Welcome back. Look at what we are finally starting to do something with. So we've got the big bad 105 inside. There has been a heap of stuff that we've been waiting for quite a while for this thing to make any further progress on it. So we ended up just buying a 6 boost. There just wasn't enough budget to actually do a complete custom manifold build like we had originally intended. I think I explained it in the last video, but since obviously starting this build, which was freaking like a year ago now, the owner's, situation has changed and the budget is sort of set now, whereas before it was sort of like a bit of a, not open, but there was a bit of room to move. At this stage, we are working within a set budget now, and unfortunately the budget just didn't allow for the time and resources to build a complete custom manifold, which is annoying because we really wanted to build the custom manifold to ensure the fitment and room for our PWR water to air intercooler barrel. But I've got some ideas. I've got some ideas of how to fit that. I've got some other reference, some other things. I'll show you the engine, what the engine looks like with Bo's metal cast red rocker cover on it, cam cover. It's freaking schmick. Oh, red hot. So these are one thing that we have been waiting for. Flywheel bolts. That's something that I've been waiting for a while. We'll go through that in a minute. But look how good this thing looks all red. Woo, woo, woo. Yeehaw. Red hot. Anyway, so flywheel bolts. Bit of an annoying one, bit of a weird size. ARP don't actually do a 1FZ flywheel bolt kit. What we have done in the past is use 3S GTE flywheel bolt kits. Sorry about my hair, guys. I desperately need a haircut. People always whinge about it. There's no barber where we live. It's like a good 2-hour drive to get to a barber. And I don't know if you've noticed, but we're freaking a bit busy. I don't really have the time. Anyway, don't talk shit about my hair, please. So what we did this time was actually buy 2 Nissan RB26 flywheel bolt kits. You need to buy 2 kits even if you get the 3S GTE ones because there's 10 flywheel bolts. So yeah, we ended up with the RB ones. I'm hoping that the shank on them is about the right size and I'm hoping they're not too deep. Anyway, we'll see how they go, but they're finally here, which means we can finally get this thing in the car. We've also got a brand new NPC clutch. We just went for the highest rated single plate organic clutch that NPC do. We use NPC clutches in a lot of our builds, pretty much exclusively NPC is what we use in our builds. And you've seen us build turbo LS patrols and things like that. That's what we use when we build those. We use NPC's highest rated heavy duty organic single plate clutch. Now what this does is makes the car still really nice to drive. Once you start going to ceramic clutches, button clutches, dual plates, that's when you start to get cars that are really annoying to drive and hard to use. And being a four-wheel drive and something that you want to, probably use off-road as well. The last thing you want is a really touchy, annoying clutch that's really grabby. So for what the power we want to put down through this thing is, that clutch is going to be plenty sufficient. Not only that, but if it does slip, if you're making so much power and there's that much load on the clutch that it does slip, chances are it's saving the gearbox because this gearbox is probably not going to be too happy with the power we're putting through it anyway. So, that's why we went for that clutch. That was that decision. It's here ready to go. And at the moment, we're just swapping the sumps over. So this is the spare engine, old engine. Then this is the sump that came off that engine and someone had put their spike for their turbo return right there, right under a freaking sump bolt. So that was really, really stupid. It's a really dumb place to put it because you can't get at the sump bolt when you do that. So we're pulling the old sump, or the sump off the spare motor so that we can put a new oil return for the turbo in a place that's not so freaking ridiculous. So currently doing that so that we can get that sump sorted. Once the sump's sorted, that engine's ready to go in with some new flywheel bolts and a new clutch. And then once it's in the car, it's all gonna be happy days. At the moment, we just wanted to get it in the car because once the engine's in the car, it's basically just a little bit of wiring fix up and fabrication. And as you've seen, due to recent events and my latest diagnosis, we have fallen quite far behind because I haven't really been on the tools much. There's just been work piling up. So we just need to make some progress, and getting the engine in this thing means we can then move it out here underneath the makeshift work area out there. And we can just sort of tick along with the fabrication work as we sort of can and as we get time. And then we get this hoist back to continue on catching up on a heap of other cars that are here. So this was just a nice big step to get this car at the next level so that we can continue to progress on it. So just looking at these, it looks like they're actually slightly different. That's off this engine, which is an 80 sump. That's a 80 series one. And this is a 105. And you can see this part here on the 80 one's actually a little bit bigger, which is probably a good thing. It means there's going to be a little bit more volume. Hopefully it's not going to cause any issues in the actual car. I can't imagine it does, considering it's pretty far away from everything in the car anyway. I'm pretty sure. Like, I'm pretty sure even in the car you can get this on and off. Like, I don't think there's anything there, so. But yeah, interesting to note that they are just slightly different. All the bolt holes still line up, they still fit the same, so. Yeah, well, play ball. Righto. The map torch out, sorting out the ring gear, put in a new flywheel. Yeah. So we'll get that on there and give it a tack weld. Woo, woo, woo. Also got our sump sorted. It was a bit of a mission in the end. Just hate welding filthy, gross, oily steel. Really hard. And we're currently having a lot of issues with our welder. We do have a new one on the way, but we're fighting, punching on with our welder at the moment. Anyway, just gave her a paint up, so we'll have some lunch. After lunch, she'll be ready to whack on. Bit of sealant, that'll get our engine complete. We'll get this clutch and flywheel on, and then we'll look at getting it in this hole. Now, to get it out, we use the excavator, and I think we're gonna have to do that again. Bo took the wheels off so that we could at least drop it down as low as we could, but I still don't reckon with the height of the 1FZ, I don't think the crane's gonna be able to get it in there. I just can't see that happening, so might have to drag the digger back up, give her another whirl.
Is it hot enough?
Careful, they're still hot. So need a little tap-aroo. Need just more heat.
One is some more heat, maybe.
Rightio, getting closer and closer. Like always, this is just taking a lot longer than I had anticipated, but we're nearly ready to start looking at getting in the car. It's only 2 in the afternoon now. Righto guys, so after a whole lot of careful measuring, we've come up with this wild looking setup to sling this engine up, but it should be enough that we get the adjustment we need, and by all our measurements we should still have enough height to get this into the car using the crane. Uh-oh, Bo. We've really messed this up.
What?
The crane legs have got to go under that diff. Oh no, all of our calculations just may have got thrown out the window. But anyway, we were determined to try and do it with the crane because it is just a bit sketchy with the digger, just because you can't hear each other, you can't communicate properly. You know, someone's all the way up in the digger, someone's crawling around underneath the car trying to get bell housing bolts in and stuff like that. It is a bit sketchy, it's not ideal. So ideally the crane is a more safe, more controlled way to do it with just the 2 of us here. So, but anyway, we're gonna have to come up a little bit to get the crane under the diff. Cool, so anyway.
So we'll be able to put a bit more, we'll be able to lift it up and put some blocks under.
Yeah, worst case, yeah, we'll block the calipers and leave it just high enough.
There's not much tension, so it's not gonna
we'll make it happen. We'll still make it work, but yeah, we're so now it's time to get the clutch and everything on the back end sorted so that we can finally get it in the car. And it'll be a whole day's work after that, just getting it ready and getting it in there. But anyway, still, whole day's work, a big step forward. So the last 105 we did, which we put an NBC clutch in, we did have some issues with the pivot ball and the clutch fork. And distances and things like that, and actually, like, you know, so we're gonna have to do some very careful measurements of this one before it goes in to ensure that we get the pivot fork right, and make sure that the clutch fork and everything's going to engage everything properly and it's all going to work properly, because we don't want to have to take this gearbox back out like we had to do the last one twice, which turns out I was helping Bo pull the last gearbox out with a broken back. I didn't know at the time.
They're way too heavy to keep pulling in and out.
It's not much fun.
No.
So yes, try and make sure this one is right first go, and don't just follow the instructions and accept that it's going to be okay, because sometimes it's not all okay, and sometimes the instructions aren't correct with exactly what's in the car. So. So we've still got a source. NBC reckons that with this clutch kit we need to run HDJ80 Master and Slave because they were the strongest, or I guess the highest pressure. So still have to source those, but again, there's a lot of things we still have to sort out, but for now we really just wanted to get the engine in the car so that we can start ticking along with getting the rest of it together, because we didn't want to get any more ancillaries on the engine because it was too friggin' heavy. These are a really friggin' heavy engine, and this was about as much weight as we wanted to have on that stand, the way it was. Didn't want to go starting to add exhaust manifolds and turbos and intake manifolds and things like that, because it all starts to get really heavy really quick. Would you brake clean yourself? Brand spanking new clutch. I was saying to Bo that we started this build so long ago that I'd forgotten, but I just checked an old episode to check for something, and forgot that there's actually an issue with this car with the four-wheel drive selection. Doesn't actually engage four-wheel drive, and it's pretty common when people put part-time kits in them for them to strip the worm drive that actually engages the four-wheel drive selector. So I think it's cooked. So we may end up still having to pull this gearbox out to pull this transfer case apart and fix that. So we'll just see. It's gonna do it. We think, as long as the crane feet actually go under there where that is, we're gonna have room. We're gonna do it, guys. Woo.
What if I told you the thrill of running a red light, chasing a recent bright memory through a bent pipe? When you get older, some just wanna hang fire with the rest of a soldier on, sleeping on the tram line. What's the point if we can't escape the landmine? Sand slides faster each day, one day we can die. We'll just ignore it, let the revs chant. I burn laps around the sun for face first to the campfire.
Guys, what a mission. What we got there? We got it done. It's in the hole, back home. So, stroker 4.8 cammed 1FZ is back home. So we begin the process of getting everything else back in the friggin' thing, and woo, look at that. Here you are. We've got our 6 boost on here and our G35-900. So it's fairly small turbo for the application, but it is a manual 4-wheel drive, and we wanted this thing to be on boost real quick. So same way we often set up our turbo 4-wheel drives, always try and go as small as we can on the turbo, just to try and get it on boost as early as possible and still make your power goals. So considering we are only aiming for 600 at the most because of this gearbox, we sort of wanted this thing to be on early, nice and quick. And the G35-900 still capable of flowing plenty enough air to make our power goals, and should hopefully be on really early. So that is the plan, that's the idea with it. So we're gonna have to move this water line, but how good does it look with the red? Looks awesome. Really good. Yeah, nothing else I really need to explain here at the moment. Not a huge fan of the way that 6 boost actually point the gate on these manifolds, but it is what it is. Not the first 6 boost we've done on a 1FZ. We did the 80 series as well. But yeah, we'll make it work. We always do. So Bo's just ticking along, getting sensors and things together. He's currently cleaning up the intake manifold outside, getting it ready to go on. So you might remember from when we pulled this apart, I was really not very happy with the wiring, especially in the engine bay, and particularly in the glove box for the ECU, for the Haltech. It was always in the plan to change or fix, redo a lot of the wiring in the car, but because of our new budget constraints, we're probably not going to be able to and still keep it within budget. So we're probably just going to have to work with what's here as far as the wiring goes. It's one of those things where when you start on it, it opens a can of worms, and if I start on it, I want to finish it. So it's not going to be one of those things where I'm only going to just do bits and bobs. It's the thing with wiring, particularly engine looms in cars. I like them pinned end to end. I don't like any joins in the engine lube, and if I start fixing this, I'm just gonna want to basically probably redo it all. So we're just gonna have to deal with what's here. Anyway, it was running, so you know, we'll just see as far as the coil setup and everything if we've got enough spark and ignition to keep up with what we want to do. I do really wish that a forward-facing plenum was in the budget, because that would just complete this setup. It's going to be a bit of a shame to put the stock over the top intake on it, but hey, it is what it is. So my idea at the moment is for the water to air barrel is probably to try and run it along the firewall on top and then loop the intake back around like that, or potentially run it sort of out of the turbo and then up and try and have the barrel along here. I'd rather not, because it's too close to the hot side. Like I'd need to do a lot of insulating and heat management, but I don't think that we're going to have room on this side to sit the barrel once everything's here. So I think we'll just have to get it a bit more together and just assess what we've got with the room we have. All right, as you can see guys, monster truck is back. Bo was smashing this out all day. Wasn't actually going to keep going with this after we got the engine in. I was going to get another car in here and start sorting it out, but because Rex had other tuning and stuff to do and there was other stuff to do today, Bo just kept going with it. So he smacked out heaps on it. We're getting a pretty rough reminder of all the things from when I pulled it apart that I wanted to fix, things that aren't quite right, things that I didn't like. It's all coming back to me in a big hurry. So anyway, like I said, it's back together quite well, or a fair way back together. We can't do a lot of fab work until we get our new welder, which is on the way, but it's going to be about a month away. So we'll put it outside under the cover, under the awning. We'll just tick along with it when we have time, revisit a few things, and when we get our welder, we'll get all the fab work sorted, and then we'll have a look and just see where we're at as far as time and budget and everything else, and see what we can afford to fix that I want to fix. Obviously we're just going to have to prioritize the things that need to be done over the things that I want to do, but hey, unfortunately it is what it is. We've got to cater to people's budgets. Yeah, what do you do? What do you do, Bo? What can you do?
Not much.
We can't do much. Bo's still got to get paid, which means we still got to get paid. So we can't just be doing stuff outside of people's budgets. It just doesn't happen that way. All right, guys. So quick update on the 105 that we've been ticking along with. The fabrication for the dump, the wastegate, all of that is finished. Wastegate's mounted or welded onto the manifold there. So we finished all the fabrication for that finally. But as you guys know, we've been having a lot of problems with our welder. We can't actually finish the fabrication on the alloy. We hadn't been able to until recently because our welder kicked the bucket. I think the AC transformer in the welder's dead, so we haven't been able to weld alloy. But as you can hear right now, there's welding going on in the shed. We've borrowed another welder to get this sorted, but still a big challenge to get it done with budget, and trying to sort of only fix what we need to fix to get it running and tuned and back to the owner, because we don't really have much budget left to get it done. So Bo's sorted out fittings, lines. He's replumbed a lot of the stuff. The turbo's all been replumbed. We've replumbed the heater line that needed to replumb. As you can see, Bo's P-clamped that up. That's bloody beautiful. The injectors are back in. We've stuck with the original injectors for now because obviously we've had to stick with the 3-inch exhaust, which means we're only going to be able to make so much power, and we aren't going to exceed the performance of these injectors at this time. So there's no point in spending budget that we don't really have on them. We did have to replace all the fuel lines because they were cracked and a terrible fire hazard. So they've all been replaced. So it's got all new fuel lines, but you know, with the injectors back in and finally the loom sort of finished, we can actually finally start to power the car up, which is good, because we still have a few other issues that we need to look into. So there's some fuel system issues with the tanks that we need to look into, which we haven't been able to with the car not powered up. And there's also still the issue of the four-wheel drive system not engaging. Bit confusing there, so we're gonna have to, once it's powered up, start looking into what's going on with that. Hopefully it is something as simple as a wiring issue. It's very frustrating because we really wanted to fix all the wiring in this car. The wiring is horrendous. You know, someone's stolen the coil wiring from the injector wiring, from the power to the injectors, which, you know, the wiring in this car is not good. And it's annoying and frustrating that we aren't able to actually fix all these issues properly the way we intended to originally, because, well, for one, we don't like our work associated with the stuff that's already here, but secondly, I think we are going to have issues because of the way a lot of the power has been done in this car. So very, very frustrating. Now, the other thing we've decided, or we've talked to the owner about, we are going to mount this 80 series radius fab airbox. We're going to mount it and plug it into the turbo and stuff, but we are not going to do the snorkel side of things. He's going to do that when he gets it back, just simply because of budget. Anyway, we're cracking along with it. So the barrel we're going to cut off, and then the barrel's going to mount pretty much sort of somewhat almost like that, pretty much is how it's going to happen. So it's going to come out of the throttle body, come over the engine and forwards into the barrel, and then obviously at this end of the barrel it's going to be quite a sharp turn to go back up to where the turbo is, and we will weld a cast alloy elbow onto the front housing, because that's always a weak point when you put silicon bends on them because they're so close to the collector. So that's the plan. Yeah, so we're trying to get this sorted. Pretty much all that's left at this point to get to where we need it to be is to finish the alley fab, so the intake and our barrel and charge piping and stuff, and then replumb the heat exchanger setup. After that, we are pretty much ready to power this thing up and start it. And once obviously I can start it and move it, well then we'll move it around, get it in the shed. And then we'll start looking into this four-wheel drive and fuel setup. And then we'll get it on the dyno and get it tuned, nice and safe and quick, and yeah, get it back to the owner, hopefully with the budget that he's got in mind. But yeah, it's a shame that we sort of don't get to finish it how we had originally intended or started the build. But it is what it is, you know, everyone's circumstances change, particularly when builds of this caliber, builds of unpopular bases, they take a long time. You know, it takes ages to get parts, it takes ages to get machine work done. Our machine shop that we work with is super, super busy. They take a long time. Just with backlog, they're just busy. But, you know, you can only build an engine as good as the machine work is. You know, assembling an engine, if the machine work's not good, there's nothing we can do about it. It's never going to be a very good engine. So that's why we wait and wait our turn for our machine shop. And there's a reason they're very busy. It's the same reason that we're very busy. It's like, because we like to think that we're pretty good at what we do. But yeah, anyway, hopefully we don't have, you know, hopefully the wiring in this will get us through to having this thing running at least and get it back to the owner so that he can enjoy the car a bit. I'm sure that obviously in future there will probably be more budget to spend on getting it finished off properly. But yeah, with obviously the choice to stay 3-inch, there's no point in upgrading the injectors because we weren't going to have to. We're not going to worry about the flex fuel system because this thing's not going to need to run an E85 to make the power that we're going to make. It's already going to be, you know, what we've got here is already way overkill for, you know, the wiring and the fab and stuff. Like, you know, we've built a bomb-proof engine. This engine will do heaps of power, cam springs, full forged, 4.8, like, engine's good. But, you know, the wiring, the fuel system, the fab work, it's not up to the standard of the engine, and at the end of the day, we are only going to need the injectors that came out of it to reach the potential of a 3-inch exhaust. And then the other thing is, you know, it's not just that, it opens a can of worms. Where do you stop? Like, you go 3.5, 4-inch exhaust, allows us to make more power. Well, now we need bigger injectors. Sweet, upgrade the injectors, obviously, ideally, with all this wiring sorted out first. But then, obviously, our cooler barrel, I think this barrel should do pretty well, but the actual heat exchanger system and the pump and everything would need to be upgraded. Ideally, something like an interchiller setup would be freaking awesome. But, you know, this heat exchanger in the front here is not that big. So, you know, that's, you know, you're starting to get to a limit. At least calling it where we have, or, you know, with the 3-inch exhaust, it's like the exhaust will sort of hold up with the injectors, which will hold up with the heat exchanger, and stops going down that road of really snowballing. So, you know, at least there's a line drawn, a goal will meet, and that'll be that. But anyway, hopefully this 4-wheel drive system issue and a few of the issues we've got with these fuel tanks aren't too complicated. We've also got to wire in an IC7. We'll get an IC7 in the dash, which again is not ideal. I'm not super stoked about it for the simple fact that having to wire it in around the wiring that's already in the car is going to be very frustrating. So I'm going to try my best to keep it as standalone as possible. But obviously, being that it's replacing a cluster in a dash, we are going to have to wire in all the lights, indicator lights, high beam lights, all that sort of thing into the dash. Which, yeah, so like this is just a dog's breakfast. So we'll, yeah, we'll see how we go there. Anyway, we are ticking along with it. Like I said, we'll get this fab work sorted now that we have a welder that can actually weld alloy. I've got a bit more material that's on the way. And then we'll be able to start it and move it. Once we can start it and move it, we'll get it back inside and start investigating the rest of the things that are wrong with the car. And yeah, hopefully get it back to him.